Well, didn't you miss us? It was so long since we last saw each other. PPL has to continue though, and it's game 3, set 3, I
crunch
guess.
time.
It really starts to get into those numbers where we can't explain here, but we're just gonna have to see how the results go through. Rain day, I hold shift, pretty hair on the desk for you to talk about the upcoming matchup that could determine first place, and in fact will determine first place, second place, and maybe who goes to land and who doesn't here in the PPL. We're talking about G2 versus Renegades, of course, fellas. What are your thoughts just going into this?
The ball's in Renegades' court. I mean, at this point in time, it is not necessarily do or die, but it's better to do and not hope that you survive later. So Renegades at this point, they had a really solid start.
Yeah.
They need to continue that momentum here. And this is a really good test against G2, who's looked nothing but solid all 5 weeks so far.
And Evil Eye getting married, that freaking ding-dong, hasn't been able to show up today. So Kyle, their coach, playing for them.
Yeah, that's big.
I think they'll be fine. I really, really, truly believe that they will be fine because I give all the credit in the world to Kyle as a support player.
Yeah.
And then Cuss Cutie is one of the most flexible players in the game.
Yeah.
I truly think they'll be okay. They don't need to win. They just need to not get blown out of the water,
Yeah.
and they will get one of these spots.
And the thing is with this, G2 Esports flexing onto some of those stranger picks to really topple those top teams when they go at LAN. Do they need that here against Renegades? That's another question. Maybe they can keep their draft a little bit more kosher so that Kyle can fit in and not have too much pressure to solo Mega Potion pip heal the rest of that squad. Let's take a look at G2 Esports, although Evil Eye won't be present, and introduce their squad.
Triple kill for Dosub. Can he be stopped? And he ends up allowing Evil Eye to find not 1, not 2, but 3 kills in that. Oh, he's good. Nice. Whoa, baby!
Career around the objective and the battlefield that Custody is
Down already. Hyperbeam is here through time and space. Oh, Gascuti with the double kill in your face, players.
Well, that's G2 Esports there. Wardoom, Cuss Cutie, Dosips, I Drop Bodies, Evil Eye. And we had this conversation about Kyle. We know that Evil Eye is getting married this weekend. Almost feels like, hey, it's a lot to be bringing into the broadcast, but congratulations to the guy. We also figured out that he at least has been going to be a part of at least game 1. We'll see how much that transitions. I don't know if he'll have to leave later on or if he will be a part of all of these steps.
It's a lot of rumor mill right now.
It's overtime. I'm coming.
Did he interrupt the valves in order to, get
God damn it, guys,
get a
put
couple
it away.
kills? And I will love you forever. Oh, hold on, cuz I'll be right there, baby. Back to the ring. And I wonder. So we'll end up seeing it. And Cuss Cutie, he's the big conversation point for me today. How is he going to, whether it's in his traditional role or whether it's stepping up for an Evil Eye disappearance, which we see is going to happen now, how is he going to impact this performance? What's his role today?
It's his flat-out versatility. I mean, his ability to play Pip is probably the biggest highlight of him, flat out. I mean, he's probably the best Pip in the game, without doubt at the moment. But it's beyond that. What else can he do when he's flexing to different parts of the team, whether it is just support or if he does have to flex on the damage? We've seen him do it all, and that's the big thing when you look at G2 as a whole. But Cuss Cutie in specific, a lot of people, again, we always talk about how it's actually Dosips that's the team captain, but Cuss's personality and his ability to really take over some of these aspects of the game is what makes him as big of a part as he is.
And it's when you see fully fleshed out picks and bans and you still don't exactly know where they're all going, it is such a tough team to draft against. And even if you do slot one guy in that is always going to be playing support, you've got still 4 others that could be one way or the other.
And I think that's largely because of Cuss. I mean, you look at Wardoom and Dosips. Dosips are the other main contributing factor there, but, this team has always been flexible because of those two. Wardoom has traditionally only played front lines, but, now he's been flexing a lot more.
Don't you sleep on Wardoom Ceres, bro.
Never sleep on his Ceres. Wardoom Ceres is a thing to behold. And it's just a great showcase. So they're going to need to bring out all of that heading into this matchup against the Renegades. But the Renegades here looked really good in set 1, and will that continue to transpire here versus G2?
It needs to. I mean, flat out just needs to. And I think that with the growth that we've seen, from the end of week 3 in through week 4 and now what we've seen so far today, this is the best chance and the best showing that we've seen of Renegades to take down the colossal North American powerhouse.
Yeah, they have to be able to get these dubs here. And the fact that they are leaning a decent amount on this solo heal Grover every time is an interesting thing to look at because Spice were able to adapt to it, and they were able to put a Rye on that. G2, if Cuscutie's playing support, they'll be able to do that, I think. And almost that question of support bans, G2 were really the first team to attack support bans and to put pressure on other supports and be like, what else do you have in the tank? We're going to ban Dombagenos.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I also think, even if Viral is performing at the level he is, which is insanely high, do you still have an edge with Cuss? I mean, do you want to ban out something you're probably, no matter what, going to have an edge in, even if they're taken even? I don't know, but it is an interesting thing they could go towards.
It's a lot of mind games, flat out, when it comes to not only the banning process, but what style you decide to draft. And you talked about how you wanted to stay kosher with G2. What do you do if you're Renegades? I mean, Loki has been playing super well, but beyond that, you look at Viral and everybody else that is components of this team, and they have just been so well-rounded. So do you stick with what has been working, or do you try to flex to something different to try to catch G2 off guard?
Maybe he's a better one to put pressure on, because I'm picturing in my head, you could put Viral on this or Pip or Rover, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I don't think he's the right guy to attack in this draft. I think Viral is just flexible enough. Loki, on the other hand, a great hit scan player for sure. He's got the Talus, and that's sort of like what he has to flex onto, what a lot of North America has to flex onto in place of blasters, just to get some shred. And I think maybe if you can put him in a scenario where he doesn't want to pick up his blaster, but all of his favorite hit scans are gone, that's probably the best way to attack Loki.
I mean, we also cannot ignore the fact that, when these guys were here, maybe a year ago in the Masters land, Loki was actually the guy that Cuscutie and G2 Esports decided to pick on. They wanted to yell at him across the, they were very obnoxious. I'm not going to lie, very obnoxious to play against. And Loki was really the one they targeted, maybe feeling that he didn't have the stomach for this. He didn't have the ability to take this pressure on. In many ways, is this what you guys might feel a redemption possibility for Loki? The final say of like, I was the wrong guy to pick on here.
Yeah, you picked me in elementary school. Yeah, exactly. Same thing. I mean, there definitely is that element of it. I think that if you're Renegades, you're trying to get in their mindset from their players is, we want to come back and prove ourselves. We want to come back and show that we can be the #1 team. It's not just definitive. It's just G2, just G2, just G2. Yeah. So this is really a big moment, I think, for RNG.
Interesting here, the Ascension Peak banned out by Renegades. And we all know, if you've paid attention to Twitter at all, that G2 have been scrimming that map quite a bit, feel very comfortable on it. So it almost feels like we don't want to see what you might have there.
The Torvald guillotines in last weekend absolutely slaughtered everyone. That is a big thing I think you got to look out for in the draft. And no one's been taking Torvald except for SK like once today. And in the weeks prior, I mean, hardly at all, barely in Europe. Torvald could be an untapped potential for G2.
Stone keeps a good spot, too. That's where we have that I Drop Bodies clip coming from as well. And he's a guy that we haven't talked about today, but as many ways as Poison has been stepping up for the Renegades, I Drop Bodies has the potential to be that guy for G2. I always consider him, if he steps up and Evil Eye's doing Evil Eye things, Cuss is doing Cuss things, Doe's doing Doe things, and you got to worry about bodies, they're almost unbeatable.
That's the thing, though. Is Evil Eye here today? That's like, hey, can we run this Torvalds in? If he's playing today, I mean, that's going to be a big thing to look at. Game 1 holds a lot of questions to be answered for us.
Grover banned here from G2, and the support from Genos banned as well. You can see, Nick, they did go that approach. And I think they're forcing, how good is your pip? I think that question is being asked. You're going to give it to us. You know what we could do. Yeah. How good is yours?
That's why I'm confident about G2 going off against European teams at it, because they just attack what you are and what you like to pick, because they are just so versatile. They may not be the best in the world at everything, but they can do it all, and they will hit you where it hurts.
I think the big thing, too, when you look at the squad of G2 is their cohesion, communication, and their ability to target prioritize has at least up to now been unrivaled in NA. And now looking at a Ruckus Makoa, this is exactly the start that I think RNG wants. The Makoa that they showed off earlier today.
Crazy, boys.
Yeah,
it's a risk.
I mean, look at this.
It's a bold strat, Cobb. See if it pays off.
Not viable champs, by the way.
You take the pip and you give Ruckus and Makoa. I mean, at this point, you could take a Strix. We have not seen Strix played on Stonekeep at all. Obviously, Kinessa, very valuable. In this way, though, you do give up Zen Shaolin, and those are very big picks that we've seen teams like Splice pass over. We've seen weird sets with Renegades earlier where Shaolin was taken 10th.
Yes, they're big and scary, Ruck and Makoa are, but I see 3 people that don't really care about big and scary too much, especially when Guillotine is the popular style for G2.
Well, and here's the thing, too. You know, when Splice was playing up against RNG, when they had a Makoa Plus on other frontliner, they didn't really have any good viable Wrecker applicants. Now you have Shaolin. Even Pip does decent damage to shields, so you're not going to get the same survivability in those shields that you had before. Health pools are going to get hit harder, so this Meltdown is going to have to really make sure those gourds and those mending spirits are right online.
And a lot of teams right now are not used to just Maldamba, I think, solo heal without an Inara to soak all of that up. We saw Renegades flex to that a little bit because they did play this Makoa quite often today, but I still think that, it puts a lot more pressure on the healer in the front line. If any of that connection gets severed, the whole fight could spill in that way. And notably, G2 are fine to take the Inara. They say, that's okay. This works with Pip the best. They don't pick it up until 4th.
That's a big thing about letting Ruck and Makoa through. Every time that it happens, it's clear that the team is aware that it's going to happen. They have a plan for it. It's just a matter of whether it's going to work out here. Our Fernando, not by any means a bad front line.
No.
That's a top 2 front line right there.
You can be happy with that one. You can sleep easy at night knowing you've got Fernando and Ara right
This
with
draft
you.
could have happened backwards for G2 Esports. We'd be like, all right.
Yeah, sure.
I get it. Kind of weird.
Inside out.
Talus taken as well. And this Talus has been something that Loki has flexed on. He's obviously the only person who we see very often play Androxus on Brightmarsh and bring him into the meta. Talus, one of the other ones who sticks to him as a comfort pick. Notable, no Bomb Kings chosen.
We talked about, that's if you can get Loki in a spot where that's his only option for Shred, you at least have a predictable thing. And that's yes, this draft is good, but it's all stuff that I feel like G2 saw coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. The big key is going to be, can this Leon get the pressure of all that Cauterize, in fact, or is Fernando's shield and all these walls from Anar going to be able to stop it?
How big will Poison show up today? If he continues the way he played earlier today, it will be a deadly, dangerous situation for G2, but I think they're prepared. Let's send it to the casters for game 1 and get this decider going.
All right, let's hop to it. Let's Agris here with Goremizer, and all of these games are just so important for Renegades, trying to figure out exactly where they'll end things.
And it's really kind of interesting because, again, it does feel like G2, first off, a really inverse kind of draft with the way they went for it, but kind of expected it to come through, which I think shows homework on their part. But with the way Renegades were playing earlier, I think even if you expect it, you might not be prepared for it.
Yeah, so while G2 has a wonderful mindset when it comes to the drafts, it doesn't change the fact that the Makoa was looking great earlier, and Poison just on his play was looking amazing. But remember to vote for who you think is going to win this set. Is it a like for G2 Esports or a heart for Renegades?
This is one of the ones I know Renegades obviously really want their wins. G2, I think maybe starting to feel a little more comfortable, but maybe a little shaky in their seats with the way things went earlier in that first set. So this is honestly up in the air. I can't say one team's going to be better than the other. At the beginning of the split, it was definitely G2, but with the way Renegades has improved, they have thrown all of that to the wind.
Yeah, we've got that high-octane competition, baby. G2 Esports versus Renegades going into Game 1 on Stone Keep.
I think we're looking kind of at the matchup so far. Shaolin today has been phenomenal, excelling in areas where we had kind of seen him excel before, but doing it just more consistently so far today. And Poison on the other side. This matchup between him and Drop Bodies, the Leon and the Shaolin, how much does that presumably death and taxes apply for Renegades? Does it make a difference? Or are we just going to be seeing Drop Bodies and the rest of the squad really just continue to do that and kill off Renegades like it's nothing?
We got to see lots of clicky ruckus earlier, and taking a look at this Poison loadout to see what he's bringing with Leon.
I really like the Divine Right. Again, movement speed for 3 seconds after using Grace, just being able to kind of chase people down or get away, depending on where things go, air to the throne. A lot of cards that you see that are a little bit typical, a little bit kind of standing out, but putting a little bit more into potentially running people down.
Viral sitting back, making sure to get those heals to the rest of the team. Loki is back here on the Talus, and Evil Eye, congratulations to Evil Eye, by the way, for getting hitched, but he's going to be on the Zen. Everyone's just kind of biding their time, starting to land some pretty heavy hits, though.
Now, this is exactly where SK were really standing. G2, they're just hanging out on the point. They're not giving up too much space. ClickU, the rest of the team, not really seeming to be able to get rid of Dose Up standing there. The healing too good from Cuss right now to stop them from hanging out on the point.
Yep, 78%. Gonna stop right there for just a moment, but Cuss Cutie on this Pip has been phenomenal in times past, especially with the way the team responds to it.
Good shots coming through. First blood, second blood, all at once. Hero goes down, but so does Dose Ups, which opens up a little bit more. War Doom presumably going to step in to try and take the place. Evil Eye finding a couple kills right here. Looking for another one. Loki low, but not going to be able to find the kill on either side.
Evileye gets himself out of the fray. It's 99% for G2 Esports. Renegades do pick up a kill onto iDrop Bodies, but Cutie throws one back to the enemy healer and follow up from the rest of the team. So overtime's going to set on down, and that's a capture for G2.
99-9, not usually the position you want to be in. Poison actually not in a good position either. Locked down, a little bit of help from his team going to be able to allow him to slowly move out of there. But the biggest problem right now is, again, Renegades don't seem to know how exactly they need to approach G2, which is lending G2 a big favor, not only capturing that, but a lot of room early on this payload push. They're not going to be finding the chokehold anytime soon, but once they come around this corner, it might get a little bit more rough.
Yeah, and still picks coming out on the side of Renegades. You see ClickU picked one up onto Evileye, and that can actually slow things up a bit. And right now, collapsing within this corridor. But there's still a lot of time for this push to actually be secured. High HP on both of those frontliners that ClickU was running into. More of a bit of a delay, a bit of a speed bump, but Doseps is just right back onto the objective.
Now this is looking, I want to say, kind of scatterbrained from Renegades as to how they want to approach the fight, where they want to put the pressure. Ultimately, the defense, a minute and a half left. They kind of want to bring it into this open area. They kind of want to let it through this archway because things will start lending towards them. But the damage, a nice Yomi strike right there, but the Dread Serpent going to be able to save Loki for a little bit.
And throwing the gourd from afar to tip off all of the members of Renegades that are standing right there. ClickU picks one up onto Doseps. And you see that Hero's actually moving on forward. Gets that healing again. Nice combination. iDrop Bodies has fallen.
And Viral, I mean, there's a reason you see him on the Maul Damba in his highlight reel. This is something that you can see a lot of players make some big plays with. The stun, notably, going to be able to impact a lot, and he is running that Swift Spirit, so just being able to give people a little bit more of a run, a little bit more, I want to say bang for their buck, just in terms of movement speed, get in, get out, wherever you need to be. Really big setup potential for him. Right now, Renegade's not paying as much attention to the payload as I think they need to.
All right, yeah, Viral with his loadout getting swifty, but 35%, or 35 seconds rather, a bit leading, and Evileye gets that kill onto Loki with the ultimate. Moving on forward with this push as well. You hear the Ancient Rage get popped by Hero. Looking for that target onto Dosep, swinging away, but that's a lot of HP to burn through. So he's going to remain in the moment, but actually gets hooked. It's still going on.
Doseps still alive. Finally, Hero's going to be able to get rid of that ClickU shortly before that, killing off Cutie. So being able to come through, or Cutie just now dying to Loki and being able to set this up, putting a lot of members from G2 staggered away back in the base, and ideally not touching down for a little bit. They're all dismounted. They're not going to be able to get back. 1 second left. Nice defense, but they need the aggression. Renegades are really lacking on their push.
Yeah, so we'll have to see exactly how they approach things on this next capture. Everybody took a moment to just sit back a little bit. They were waiting for those first bloods to actually connect. And then now starting to get some of that itemization online. Tier 2 caught on both sides for 2 of the members, and that wrecker being built.
You know, looking at the damage and the way things are actually going, it's kind of skewed because when you see Shaolin sitting up at the top, it looks like maybe he's trailing or leading by a big ton, but the numbers are really, really close here. There's only 8,000 separating him and Leon, and there's so many people between them. It's a big sandwich. And I think that's just, again, showcasing, I want to say, how close this is. So far, not really big, outstanding plays. I mean, both teams have someone who's 4-1 for their kills, but it hasn't been very fight-oriented. It's kind of poke, give, push, pull, tug of war as to who's going to come out on top.
And I think Renegades also, they're responding to who exactly they are facing against. They weren't afraid to get very aggressive in their match against Splice, but they don't want to get punished for any missteps. iDrop Bodies actually taking one onto ClickU in this moment.
Now swinging away, Evileye in a good position, potentially to get some of these Yomi strikes. A lot of damage output coming from him and Drop Bodies, which is something Renegades have had trouble dealing with. Hero notably going down right there, losing one of your main front lines. Ruckus not really able to still fill the same hole that Makoa does.
36% climbing for G2 Esports. Evileye holding on to that high ground. And Doseps, even though he's getting chunked down at moments, great use of the wall to blockade a lot of that damage. And now he's just planted onto the objective. Trying to get these hits from afar. Renegades rotating on through. I think Hero's really trying to make his impact be known onto that, but nonetheless, actually getting pushed off to the side. Here's Renegades with their ultimate to try and keep this through, but ClickU gets the kill onto Doseps. Here's an enlightenment, but not going to get the connect fully.
Being able to stay alive, the heal coming through from Viral, making sure the front lines as well as Poison are going through, going for the flank, but going to get taken up into the spite. Evil Eye gets the kill right there. A couple of slashes later, Viral looking to be the next one on his list, and that is going to be him killing one more hero in the Ancient Rage, but he's about to be alone because ClickU's going down.
Manages to pick up one. Cuskcutie picks up ClickU though, like you said, and that's going to be very impactful for the ability of Hero to stay on this. That's why he ends up falling to Dosup's 99% for G2 Esports. Overtime, trickling down, and that's going to be another capture.
And the beginning of that point, for both teams, but mainly Renegades, was very sheltered, I want to say. Like, they didn't really want to push forward. It didn't feel like they wanted to fight as much, except for Hero, who was up there in the brunt of it all and ends up dying because of it. It feels like the rest of the team might not quite be on the same page as they were earlier in their first set, and I think you're maybe seeing the difference in caliber again. G2, with the way they kind of anticipated the draft, seemed to be anticipating the playstyles and just acting to it before it can even happen.
And it comes down to that aspect that we mentioned about the PPL, where the mechanical ability is still there for everyone, and that's why you're still seeing ClickU with some great moments, Hero as well, the rest of the team, Poison and all, but even when they get those picks, G2 finds that way to navigate around it. Evil Eye keeps sticking onto Loki in this way. Another double kill for him, and they're just getting more traction off of their picks than Renegades are off of theirs.
And Hero, in a very similar position to kind of a Nara, to a Terminus, this is not where you want to see your Makoa getting shredded like it's nothing. You don't want to see him fall that much. ClickU in a very similar vein. The damage coming down from Evil Eye and drop bodies has been insane for them to set this up. The kills coming out have been even more important. So finally, some breathing room as G2 find 3.
Yeah, good job from Viral throwing out that Dread Serpent. Double kill for Poison. Great follow-up from the rest of the team, and it was right in that general kind of archway where you can better predict exactly where they'll be running after that fear, so Renegades
Not
are
many
able
places
to
run away.
Yeah, exactly. And just putting it at the right angle too, so the rest of Renegades turned and said, oh, that's where they're going. Let's finish this off.
And being able to kind of capitalize again on the positioning, like you mentioned, Enlightenment available, as well as Hexafire, which are things that they had used to try and start out the round to try and save that point, but so far haven't really been impactful so far. Some of the bigger ults that Renegades do have on their team as well, so looking to try and force that. G2 so far have been really good at just pulling those away from Renegades and making them a little bit non-impactful.
Yeah, he takes a lot of damage, but there's actually a nice special delivery from Cuskcutie looking for some follow-up, but nonetheless, it's a trade back and forth on both sides.
Nice.
Poison with the double kill. I drop bodies, and Dosup's picking them up too, though, so that's 3 down for Renegades.
And now a nice shot starting it off. Loki's so low, and it's going to take one more hit. Dosup's going to be the one who finds it. Hero going to be dropping down, but the damage is so far so good from the rest of the team. You're stuck between 3. There's the Ancient Rage to try and stay alive, and Dosup's is low.
Does pick up Dosup's, and that's exactly what they needed for this defense. What a way to go ahead, make sure you have that ultimate available, because without it, then that could have just ended up going in the favor of G2.
And just being able to find it, ultimately only using one of the bigger ults, I think, is the best way to do it, and having Ancient Rage be the one that pops. It depends on your positioning. I mean, Hero right now has not been the best at surviving, so it's a little, I want to say, upsetting on his end to have to use it, but again, saving that point, keeping it 2-2. This is where things can usually start to pull ahead when one team can come through. But there was something on the damage charts, not just the shielding, but you see two members that, I mean, arguably they're very aggressive, but I feel like Leon and Talus really need to work on that damage output. They're still trailing, not by much, but Hero and ClickU should not be the top for me.
And still having participation in these raids. 6-2-6 as Leon for Poison going into this round. But there's actually a hook for Hero, and getting to sit on top of that gourd as well. The Immortal popped for Wardoom, keeps himself in the fight. You're down to 140 though. There's the heal coming from Cuskcutie. Nice way to soak that up, and he can just keep dishing out that damage. There's a Dread Serpent on the high ground. True Power activated as well. Poison, you're in a bit of trouble. Chunked down, but Dosups, he's going to redirect his attention to Hero, waiting for that shield to drop and pop into the air. He goes.
Dosup goes for the high ground, even though there's no ground up there. He's just going to fly through. Loki going down. Renegades getting taken down systematically by G2 right there. And that was just so much. I honestly feel bad. In Viral's position, there were so many people he had to heal. There was no one he could focus back to full.
And now I Drop Bodies just gets to plant onto the objective. 69% still going forward, and that's just the burst healing that came from Pip right there. We know Cuskcutie to be such a strong player on this pick, but it was also shows War Doom actually with the double kill. I was about to mention him, but Sigbre as the Heat Haze actually getting popped to take out ClickU, 3 down. And overtime, this should be going the way of G2. But it shows the truth, or the trust rather, from the rest of the team, knowing that those heals are going to be coming, because War Doom, instead of just completely retreating, he was waiting for that heal to happen, kept himself in the fight, and benefited.
Sits in the corner, waits, and actually ends up getting really good fireballs off of that positioning. And now, because of that, ultimately, they're still winning points. It hasn't really been in favor of Renegades at any point in time that they've aggressed onto this. And so with the way things have been going, it feels as though they have a very aggressive team composition and they aren't able to act on it. They keep getting held at bay. You see Makoa, you see Ruckus get in their face, try to fight the way they want to, and then you're wondering, okay, well, Poison's over there on the side, Loki's over there on the side, Viral's trying to keep us healed up, but because we're so spread thin, G2 are having the time of their life.
And we're in round number 3, and the payload the last couple times pretty much made it to the same exact positioning as before. Fly billowing away, and you can just see right here you have Loki that's waiting for some target to make himself vulnerable to go ahead and collapse upon, but Evil Eye once again takes down Hero.
Now ClickU getting low, one more slice is all it will take. Can he get into the base? It doesn't even matter, they're going to turn away. Dread Serpent throws down, but that payload's still moving in.
And Poison, he's looking for the kill, had to reposition because of that wall, throw some shots into War Doom, the hook from Hero to bring him into that vulnerable state, but G2 Esports nonetheless push it through and get the victory.
Not exactly the start you want if you're Renegades, and almost, I want to say, flipped on its head compared to what we saw earlier. G2 not only seeming like in the draft they recognized it, but just in their play, they knew what Renegades were going for, and they just never let them have it.
Yeah, like we said, Renegades, they had some moments that, okay, so you're still landing your shots, you're still on these comfort picks that worked for you in the past, but G2, as a collective, they just had a very clear strategy in mind from the start of the round to the finish.
And overall, this is one of the things that this is a very crucial matchup for both of these. Of course, G2, if they win, they're probably feeling very comfortable sitting up there. I mean, right now, 6-0, so they're not too worried again. But if Renegades are able to kind of pull themselves ahead, then you start getting into those tricky numbers that I think Nick keeps mentioning overall, that it becomes a little bit more complicated math as to who exactly is going to land.
Yep, so this was just game number 1, but Renegades did manage to swipe away a couple points for themselves. So let's throw it into Desk to go into the rest of the set.
Thanks, Gabby and Gore. I think Gore said it best. Those point fights, systematic by G2. They took every inch of Renegades apart like they were playing doctor, and it looked great. Now, the question for me is, we see obviously the Evil Eye coming through. He will be playing all 3 games, as we have found out today. But it seems like no matter whether he has the Genos or not, his Zen is still on point.
It's punishing.
Yeah.
That's the best way of putting it is, War Doom is able to get aggressive because he's got dose-ups behind him, and that's what War Doom does. He holds W. He likes to get in people's faces, and as soon as he pushes somebody out, it's coming right in as the Zen from Evil Eye, able to find a target who's isolated, someone he can burst down with that Yomi, even without the damage boost, as you mentioned. It's just absolutely just devastating to see.
And it's got to come back to just the communication and the way that they operate, right? War Doom goes in, sets it up for Evil Eye. Evil Eye drives it home. As soon as he goes into Bill, there's a heal on its way already. It's like, is he even having a call for it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's running. We were talking about this a little bit. He's running Yomi and Smolder because he's getting full heals after that Billow. He is never coming out of a Billow low, and that's a good way to play Zen. Let's talk about G2. Obviously, and I think heading into next game for me, because the pregame strategy working for them very well, the ban of the Grover, the ban of the Genos, taking the Pip. Do you think that that's the same strategy they go for? If it ain't broke, don't fix it against Renegades?
I mean, if it works, it works. But at the same point, that's not the only thing they need to do to be successful at this point. I mean, like you were mentioning, is the communication is just so next level. I mean, there is an approach to everything they do. Everything has a reason. Everything has a purpose. And as you go into Splitstone, I think if you're Renegades, you need to find a way to make sure G2 has to play your game. Because right now, Renegades is just playing the game of the G2 here.
So they're still banning supports, it would seem here, but I think maps are going to do more than anything to force the draft to change a little bit. I think G2 are still going to try to play their game overall, and same 2 bans from them out of the gate.
And this almost hurts Renegades, right? Because they're banning the Kinesis, saying, oh, you're probably going to ban the Strix because you can't. But wait a second, we're actually not first pick here, so now you have the opportunity to Strix if you want. I still think G2 take Pip here early on, and they call Renegades bluff. What do you got for us? And they do it.
Pip is so good on this map because he's got so many different areas that he can play from. You can play from the lower ground if he has to, but he can get onto those little stone bleachers on the, you know, depending on what side of the map you're on. He can get up on that area and be successful, and he can also hide in that little bit of that lava cavern to make sure he can, again, continue to be a pest.
I mean, I've seen a lot of Makoa play today, more than I expected to see, and this time they take away the Ruckus. Nick, do you think that's the right call? I mean, Makoa Ruckus, not too impressive as far as when we've seen Renegades have it against G2 in Game 1.
Ruckus is really great, sure, but he doesn't have that presence that Fernando is going to bring to the table. And this Fernando Makoa was actually a very substantial front line. It was the front line that Renegades ran earlier today against Splice that looked really, really, really strong for them.
I think this is also a strong point for Hero. He loves, he loves playing Fernando, and this will allow ClickU to flex onto the Makoa. Notably, Hero was on the Makoa last time, ClickU on the Ruckus, because I think probably ClickU feels he can own that Ruckus role, and that might be more of a game changer here in that set. But now the Ruckus goes all the way over to G2. You can expect an Inara here with that.
It forces something to change for G2, right?
Yeah.
And it's a nice little change, right? Yes, you do give them Ruckus, but you don't put yourself in that corner where everything you're picking G2 is completely aware that that's the next thing that's coming.
And I think also it says, Renegades, you're going to take a sniper. We know how to fight around it. G2 have been prominent in terms of discovering ways to fight on sniper-oriented maps without a sniper. Yet they're going to go and say, all right, we'll call that, and we'll raise you one. One winner which, to be exact.
I love it. And if you think back, actually, I'm trying to remember back to when G2 was going through their fall playoffs, they had the best win rate out of every team with the exception of Virtus Pro when having Ruckus there. And when you have dose-ups who can be so flexible, I mean, it's just insane to see. I mean, this is going to be interesting. Again, we talk about G2, who's going to play what. I mean, I'm not even going to bother taking a guess because anyone can play any of these champions.
I agree.
It's going to be crazy.
I think you could see Doom or Doe on either Ruckus or Inara. I think whoever's feeling comfortable. Obviously, Dosip played Inara last round, but you would normally think Dosip's for Ruckus in general. I think Bodies will be on this Eevee, though. I think they're going to give him that task, and Zen staying with Evil Eye. The Leon picked up for Poison. Nick, how do you feel? Who gets the better edge of this draft?
I'm trying to figure out who I would put where for G2. But
exactly.
I don't know that I'm sold on any one way, but I'm not surprised on the others.
Yep.
I don't know. I could see Doe on Eevee, and I could see Bodies on Ruckus.
That's what I was about to say, too.
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Will the captain be on the winner which? Or we'll have fun guessing until we go into game. Let's send it to our casters here for Game 2.
You know, the game of predicting who's going to play what has gotten harder and harder as time's gone on.
Everyone's flexing around, and this is actually really interesting to look at just because earlier we saw a split stone map for Renegades. They have pretty much the same draft, except Poison now, I think, swapping in the Leon instead of the Shaolin. And on the other side, there's an Eevee instead of a Talus. But Eevee brings a little bit more to the table, I think, on this map overall. So Renegades maybe trying to replicate some earlier success.
Yeah, they did have success on this map, like you said. So going against G2, having a bit of that level of comfort, going with a similar strategy. But G2, we've also seen them succeed on this map. And going from when they used to just never want to go to here and they thought,
we hate that map.
We hate it. But over time, eventually, you pretty much get every map at least somewhat in your arsenal.
Evil Eye on this Eevee, I think, is going to be a very big component of what G2 have, and maybe a very big thing at dealing with Loki, maybe dealing with Poison, being able to kind of keep up in terms of mobility. Notably earlier, one of the big things that caused a lot of trouble for Splice was that they didn't have any real vertical movement. Eevee, she can go up and down just fine, left to right, no matter what. So Loki maybe going to have to be a little bit more cautious as to how he takes these fights. The same thing with Poison. You're going to be a little bit more careful.
Getting into it nice and early with some shots, and ClickU, he wants to repeat how he started the last time they were on this map and try and send somebody into the meat grinder, but it's not going to happen just yet. I won't put it past him as far as this game is going to go.
I'll say I hope you're taking your notes, because when there's a Makoa on the other side on this map, that's how you approach the fight, not up there where he can grab you no problem.
Yeah, G2's going to be very aware of that and actually sending Wardoom over to the objective early. Actually, both of their frontliners, which do end up bullying back the Nando, and Evil Eye gets the first blood onto Nando, Viral rather, following up with Hero falling.
Just kill after kill. Now, Loki, notably Poison, both pushed back like it's nothing. And one of the things that was really strong for Renegades earlier on this was the fact that Hero was pretty much unstoppable. He wasn't dying that much, and a lot of it was Viral staying alive in the back, keeping him healed up. He had Rejuvenate 3 in the second round, which made a big difference in his fight. But this time, recognizing where that pressure needs to go, the healer was the first to get killed in all of this.
And with all of those interactions, G2 were able to get up to 99%. Renegades, they force themselves into the fray to try and get this overtime set, and it is going to start ticking on down. But look, there's 3 members from Renegades all the way on the side, and here's actually the ultimate coming from Pip. I drop bodies, Warden with the double kill. Once again, 3 have fallen for Renegades.
Being able to come through. Overtime going to tick one more time. Hero's back. Might be able to go in if he really wants, but he's going to die either way. And we see drop bodies pretty much put him in the position that you're not going to touch the payload. I'm going to kill you here and now.
Quite a few times that Renegades, they've had only 2 members up, and with that G2 Esports getting that capture, moving on with it. And now with this push, they know it to be fairly difficult, and Renegades, it's their time to be on the defense, automatically taking to the high ground.
This is one of those moments where when you look at the way G2 have drafted it and the way they are playing this, you can see all the things that went really well for Renegades based on how Splice was playing it earlier. The things that are going right for them right now, a nice seismic crash going to be able to go through as we kind of take a break from that thought, but nice Ice Storm going to be putting on the pressure.
Evil Eye backs off, and Dose Up's Ward Doom both pick up kills. Is 2 for 1 so far. Evil Eye with that mobility knows that there's a sniper. Loki, he's up, he's ready, but actually ends up getting punished with Loki and Poison picking up kills.
Being able to push him back just a little bit. This is one of the harder corners to come around. There's pretty much 2 corners here for the push that are very difficult, and they've just waltzed through one. And now coming around the last little bit. Respawn timers, everything really kind of in favor of the defenders here. So Renegades maybe not having as much to worry about unless G2 want to commit some ultimates.
And just to get that hook, not actually gonna pull anything too crazy out of the water, but look how many are clustered in the side. I drop bodies. He takes down one of the frontliners for Renegades. And now finding that safety behind your own frontliner too. You see the hook actually getting caught, the Ancient Rage as the answer immediately after. But click you, everybody's just a little too mobile and gets out of the way.
Renegades really kind of stockpiling themselves down onto the payload. A nice plug going to be able to pull in. Dosup's trying to find the killer. War Doom, that is, but it's not going to be enough. Drop Body's going to get taken down, which might cause a little bit more of a stall from G2 since they don't have some of their main damage dealers.
So these hooks are still hitting, just like they were earlier, and these shots are still falling onto the targets for Poison, but it just seems that G2 is a bit more responsive immediately in some cases, and then a lot of the hooks are onto Anara or Nando, which, unless they're right there at the tail end of their HP, then you have to have some kind of follow-up game plan, but it hasn't been as cohesive so far in this game.
And it almost feels as though they aren't quite ready to dump all of their damage into it. Even right now, Loki going down there, 5 seconds left. There's a lot of low health bars on Renegades, and War Doom again is just standing on the payload.
Okay, there's the Dread Serpent onto the high bar, but actually Poison picking up the kill onto Dose Ups. And with Viral really low on HP, has to keep himself alive for the benefit of the rest of the team. Heals back up. Loki picks one up onto Cuss, so no burst healing available to them. Overtime is still going strong.
Oh, a nice shot right there. Evil Eye getting low. We're going to be able to wormhole in and out. Unfortunately, no one really paying attention to the payload where overtime was going, so G2 going to end up giving up a little space, but you can still see, I want to say, the impact, kind of going back to my earlier point, where Splice played everything different. They took the same approach every initial point fight. They took the same approach with their Evil Mojo, the same approach every single time. And Renegades, after the first round, they know exactly how to predict that. They can adapt to it. G2 are playing this fundamentally different than what we saw earlier, and it is affecting Renegades in a majorly negative way.
Look at the double kill for War Doom on that replay. But you see on the damage charts with Poison and Loki right at the top, and we mentioned it before, they were landing a lot of the shots, and that's what led to that defense and collaboration with some other aspects. But it's about right now with the rest of the team, need to get some of these to connect more. There's just been a few too many cases where G2 Esports have been able to find a bit of safety after.
A nice hook being able to come through, maybe trying to find something. Dosubs immediately goes for the Hexafire, but the shield going to be coming up and ends up falling a little bit too deep.
A little too vulnerable in the Ice Storm pop by Eevee. Viral picks one up onto Dosubs, though. Nobody stepped onto the objective just yet. And Poison with the 9 streak. Cuscuti being gone is huge. Evil Eye as well. That's a double kill for Poison. Maybe Renegades can follow up on this.
I feel like Poison has put himself in probably the hardest position because now he has to stand up to his own Shaolin from earlier on this Leon right now. A 10 streak, doing pretty well. The damage is there, the presence is there, but the question is whether or not he's going to be able to have as many outstanding performances. As of right now, it's helped his team get back in, and on even ground there at 72%.
Yeah, great job so far, and even though Poison goes down, it has decent distraction value, and you hear the Ancient Rage popped too. 72% for Renegades and G2 Esports coming back to it though. A little bit of control for themselves. You take out Loki, you take out ClickU. That's a big body and a damage dealer eliminated. I drop bodies with a double kill, and they are dishing it back with a triple kill. Renegades just falling off like flies.
Literally swinging the sword right through them. Nothing standing in his way. He is meeting no resistance. The flaming sword maybe cutting a little bit better than just a normal sword, and as it is, they're going for the zone. 81%. They surpassed Renegades, looking for the dismounts, trying to hold them back. They might be able to touch down in time, but it's going to be close.
Nice swings. I drop bodies, saw a target, he went after it, and then some, looking for another one too. And he is playing great on this pick.
Just being able to set it up, and now hanging out on the side. This is somewhere they got maybe a little bit too aggressive before. If they lose a couple members, G2 might lose some room overall at the tail end of the push, but they are gaining a lot of space for this initial curve, and being able to get to 50% here on the map is the best checkpoint.
This has to be a bit frustrating for Renegades too. Everything has been so tight with the top 3 teams in NA, and only 2 actually get to make it to the PPL LAN. So with that, and also Las Vegas, you're still trying to figure out who's going to be sneaking on him, but Renegades, they know they have what it takes to put themselves in that top 2, but they need to bring something through.
And I think you're seeing right there was a very essential moment in showcasing the difference between earlier and now. That hook comes through. Most times Ruckus shouldn't walk out of there, but that is G2 keeping them alive, making sure they play it well, and Poison being locked down, no damage coming down. G2 have gotten this payload incredibly close for 1:20.
And Loki's setting up. He's landing these very nicely. Viral to finish off Evil Eye. So that's the thing about this last part of the pick. That's a far Evil Mojo. But Loki ends up getting one onto I drop bodies.
Doesn't end up getting the kill. Hero gets rid of Cuss Cutie. Viral is low, but ultimately not dead. G2 full retreat as of right now. Try to regroup, wait up. A minute left. So it's a very, very interesting position to be in, because you can make it back to this payload. It's going to take a lot of effort to get through, and you can see Renegades kind of preparing for them to come through around this corner.
Yep, G2 didn't lose everything in that last time, which means it wouldn't take too long for them all to get back, but Renegades did still manage to zone them. They've occupied this area, and now right there in that side, kind of up those few steps, you can see that G2 are attempting to make their way through. And right here, Evil Eye blasted away by Loki when he was focusing on ClickU.
Good hook, good control. Make sure you get rid of the nuisance that has been Eevee, but you can see lurking in the waters over on the side, Zen, the one that has been causing him probably the most trouble I'm going to expect right now. Dosup's going down. Wardoom still kind of dancing at a low health bar. And it seems like G2 recognize that this is going to be a little bit too difficult to try and go through. Regroup. Don't feed any more credits. Maybe pick up a couple kills on the tail end.
Yeah, these last parts of this push are difficult because there's that decent little bit of high ground for Renegades to stand on that's so close to the spawn as well. And Poison, he just picks up another one onto I drop bodies, and that's what we've seen from Poison and Loki, and there Loki gets another too, where they've just been trading off on basically that responsibility.
Right now you're seeing the defenders' advantage. They're going to be able to get the overtime, hold it back. But Renegades are in this position where it feels like the map is giving them those defenses. It doesn't feel like a team finding the defense. It feels as though, hey, we know it's difficult to push on this map, and it's just lending itself to that. As of right now, they're having some great moments. Loki specifically being able to find a lot of shots and get rid of Evil Eye, of drop bodies anytime he happens to catch him out. But you need those moments here on the point. You need your drop bodies to step up for your team instead of letting him just slice through you.
Yeah, I think it is important to note how Loki and Poison, they're trading off that responsibility, yes, but actually back and forth. If you looked at the kill feed, it was Loki, Poison, Loki, Poison. And with the help of the way the map is structured, but it's important for them to be landing those shots consistently. But then those do add up to when you see just Zen on the opposite end, triple kill, double kill. And that kind of cancels out some of that aspect, but ClickU ends up picking one up onto I drop bodies. It's a trade 1-for-1, and the Dread Serpent has been used by Viral.
Evil Eye does get back, gets rid of Loki, and now he's firing from behind enemy lines. Renegade's finally going to be able to look at him, but it might be too late. There's going to be the Ice Storm a little bit too high, but it's still going to be able to connect. Viral getting low, but there's the Immortal trying to keep him going.
Poison. He's still landing some, finding a little bit of safety in the side corridor, but Wardoom, he picks it up onto ClickU. It's 27% to 15 and climbing for the side of blue. But Hero, he's had a lot of sustainability throughout last set in this one, keeping himself in the fights and trying to pull some of the members of G2 in their attention.
Looking to try and find a way back into this. Where is the hole that you can break through? G2 looking to be able to hold them back. Maybe going towards the top ground. There's an Ancient Rage that happened to come out, and it seems like it might have been some CC immunity usage. But ClickU not really finding what he wants.
That entire time, Cuskudi was just sitting on the objective, and you saw that somebody from Renegades was trying to make it through, and ClickU going down right now to Wardoom, but he even popped the ultimate just to break through and drop down to finally try to get that step, but couldn't make it to the capture.
It looked like a really solid start for Renegades on that, except for a few things, and notably, I think it is one presence that they have been missing, which is the Shaolin versus the Leon. One of the things that we saw Poison doing a lot earlier that he hasn't been able to do during this matchup is go around, flank the way that you see Shaolin. I think Vox put it as the way you see in your ranked games, the way Shaolin just ends up somehow in your backline. Whereas now Poison very notably just kind of sitting with his team, not really having the same impact, not picking up kills where earlier he was erasing members. And because of that, I mean, just look how fast this payload's moving.
Yep, about a minute and a half to go, and this payload is farther than it ever has been before. It's right in those last clenching moments, and an Ice Storm thrown onto the high ground. Hero tried to make it through, but Wardoom took him down. A Dread Serpent attempting to save it for Renegades, and they're still in it. They've only had one lost at this point, but ClickU, he's losing HP quite quickly and has to pop a shield as a result.
Flashbang going to be going down, trying to hold whatever they can. Cuss going to go up against the wall. Loki finds him. Drop bodies immediately found by Viral. Wardoom trying to run away, but it doesn't look like they're going to let him get out easily. A nice staggered kill, and Nara going to respawn a little bit later, and that payload is uncomfortably close for Renegades. Uncomfortable to say the word, too.
You saw that word, whenever Nara just throws that down, and then you saw Nando trying to run out of it, and it's just the same motion, but so slowly, just through that quicksand-like motion. But we're approaching the last 30 seconds. And G2 Esports, they did use a lot of their ultimates in that last interaction, so not quite that fight starting potential, but maybe in this last second they can get some picks.
20 seconds still on the clock. The payload kind of in limbo as to moving forward and not. Dosup's low. Cuss going to be able to keep everyone topped off. G2 patiently approaching the payload, but they need to get a little bit faster with it. They're going to be able to touch in. Renegades have to pay attention.
Yeah, last 10 seconds, and a couple of the members of G2 have flown on through. Doseps falling fairly low, though. One last shot from Loki, and he's out of there. And Nar stepping on forward, but Wardoom, he got burned down. That's all the frontliners on the side of G2. And Loki, he's not afraid to put himself right into the middle of the action with gourds galore. And that's going to be another defense for Renegades.
One of the things that stood out to me that last round, and I'd like to be able to switch over to Hero and kind of look at what he's running, because this is something that I think has been making a very big difference overall in terms of his cards. Because one thing against Anar, and specifically what you had mentioned, seeing Hero kind of get locked down a lot by that Warder's field, kind of makes you feel like he is going a little bit more of a standard loadout, using Incinerate, using the brand, trying to get maybe a little bit more damage out there more often, which usually works. I mean, trying to find that aggression, playing that aggressive, but he's been dying so quick, and you can kind of see, actually does have the immovable object, but it doesn't seem to quite be working for him the way he wants it to.
And they have to rely on just those particulars of the loads up right here, maybe with that crowd control reduction going into some of these ultimates on the side of G2 Esports. It can be the thing they need to have that staying power. Lots of ultimates on both sides have been completed to 100%, and Hero, early pick onto Evil Eye.
Being able to find that, but you can see Drop Body still looking for some slashes, trying to figure out how to get back in here. 3-3, Renegades could potentially cause an upset here, but there's the Evil Mojo, finds two, might be able to pick up some kills.
Oh, but they pop right back out of it. Loki picks it up onto Wardoom. The Dread Serpent thrown out once more. He's looking for more, actually, from this high ground potential. Somebody from G2 Esports is going to need to focus him down, but they really need to be able to actually collapse upon these that are on the objective as well.
ClickU getting low, a couple more slashes. There's the Ancient Rage to keep him alive. Drop Body's just going to ignore the turtle, goes for the Scion of House Ico. Not going to be able to find the kill right there, but at least creates some space. Evil Eye cleans it up in the background, even though he ends up dying. G2 get themselves the point back.
And that's the teamwork that you like to see from G2. When one isn't able to do it, the other is. But Loki, all on his own, gets the double kill. And once again, not afraid to get down and gritty into the action. But Clicky, oh no, he's into a little bit of trouble. If he doesn't get any healing, he's about to be eliminated in just a moment's time. But he's actually still alive.
Being able to get out just barely, but still alive, pushing forward now, going for dose-ups. He's going to be low. He might drop here. One more shot is all you need. The wall's going to be good, but they don't find it. Dose-ups actually turns it around, kills off ClickU, but Renegades are on the point, 81%.
They managed to bring it pretty close percentage-wise, but G2 Esports moving on forward. You see Wardoom wants to cut off that access point, gets stunned out, but nonetheless, Viral is going to keep himself alive past the half. Evil Eye gets that onto Hero.
Nice shot still coming down. ClickU's going to be back. Doesn't have an Ancient Rage to his name, though, so that health bar is all he has. Evil Eye going to get taken down by Loki, who might have to jump down, keep himself present. Viral not having a good enough heal. ClickU goes down.
Yep, it's a 99% onto the objective, which is why Poison put himself down, throws up the Enlightenment, gets punished for it. Wardoom, another double kill on this Inara, and Overtime starting to do that flutter that it likes to do at this point in time. Dread Serpent pushes away the members of G2, but Dosebs, he is there, he is ready. Hero right into the ground.
Now Ice Storm coming through. ClickU came back. ClickU is gone. The shots are good, but that's all they needed. No one else is around.
And in true fashion, last point being as bloody and a massacre as it was back and forth. And it's always so crazy when you just see Overtime doing that. The little flutter.
Renegades trying to hold on to it. And that, I think, is a good showcase of why, even if you're defending every single time, you still have a chance for that 4-3. Unfortunately for them, they were not strong enough to be able to pull ahead. It got really close, maybe a little uncomfortable for G2, but they seem to have a level head into it.
Up another case where it is close indeed, but it's still 2 games in favor of G2, potentially just 1 to close out this set. Desk, what do you have to say?
Oh my heart is racing there. And I don't know whether it's because that game was tight or because I'm actually a little inspired by some of those dance moves that Dosebs was pulling off in that Clicky 1v1. The Doseb two-step, he was just went the right and the left. It's like taking Will Smith's advice in Hitch, man. Just keep it here. Keep it in the pocket.
Don't need no pizza.
And we are laughing about that. We're going to break down the game, but before we do, I do want to let everyone who's watching know we have a part 2 coming up, and that is going to mean that this broadcast is going to end that you're watching. You'll have to click a link in the chat to go to the second part of the broadcast, which is a whole new broadcast, but the same show. If that makes any sense. You'll just be clicking and going to a new web page, and you'll be watching the same thing. We will start at 7 o'clock for that, so we'll break this game down and then probably go on about a 10-minute break or so and continue this set. But, guys, I mean, just give me your thoughts. A lot happened there.
I'll start with the Dosebs two-step.
Sure.
You have to convert moments like that if you're RNG. I mean, that just brings back moments of the final point of Envy going up against G2 where they just did not kill that last player. You need to be able to find moments like that if you want to beat these kind of teams, capitalize on low health pools. So and again, you can't take anything away from Poison. He was hitting shots like crazy on Leon, but those 3 that he missed could have possibly turned this map in a different scenario for them.
It's like, yeah, we get to the overtime point, but it's like that's where the game is lost,
yes,
right?
100%.
A bunch of ultimates come in. Yes, Immortal was there. Enlightenment goes into a counter. There's a Dread Serpent that hit targets, but it's like G2 are just shrugging all that stuff off at that point, and the game felt like it was really won or lost in those critical moments.
And that's the issue there, because separating these teams, it's obviously very little. And I think the big point for me, too, Bodies and Evil Eye switching that role that we typically see them play Zen on Bodies and then Evil Eye on that Eevee. We talked a little bit about this. Maybe, yes, looking for this game, getting maximum value out of these guys, but also maybe looking ahead into these lands upcoming. You're going to have to face the Fanatics with Fisheko. You're going to have to face the Navis with Creatives. You have to have an Eevee on par, and maybe they just feeling like we want to prep Evil Eye for that job and prep Bodies for the Zen.
It's a good tune-up for him, I think, specifically. He had a couple of really nice Ice Storms in there, a couple of nice Blink dashes, and a couple of long-distance artillery barrages that we see some Eevees pull. I mean, do you think that where he is right now is comparable to EU? Same.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think Fishy's the best Eevee in the world right now. Evil Eye, he's got to get there quick for sure. Was this a bad performance? No. The question that I have, though, is that every time Bodies or Evil Eye would get into trouble, it was like that front line had so much map locked down for them. They get to return into the loving arms of Cuss Cutie, get a bat heal because their frontliners didn't need it at that time. And it's like, are you going to have that in those games against the best European teams? I don't know.
it's probably something that's going to get punished more and more. And that's what we've always seen. We've seen Evil Eye and Bodies, despite how good they are and how good they perform in NA, those are the ones that usually get punished the most when they go into those matchups against the EU teams. And even in the LATAM teams now, we have to keep Burrito in that conversation with how they performed. I think looking at this now, too, I want to talk a little bit about a sparring partner in Loki. He was probably a good warm-up, about the best warm-up you can get in North America to go get some top-tier sniper action. He performed well. I mean, he kept them in that with that flashbang towards the end of round 3.
And it's weird that we're seeing the flashbang ultimate have such an impact, and that just goes to show that Loki really is well-rehearsed on Strix. I mean, not just hitting the shots that matter, but able to know when to switch to pistol, and also to be able to get the flashbangs.
It's the perfect comparison that you just made there, because I was thinking about Mutu yesterday, and Fishy, if he went in and wasn't perfect, Mutu just obliterated him, and that is going to happen. That was going to happen here today with Loki. That was like my main concern. I'm like, yeah, whatever Eevee, whether it's Bodies or whether it's Evil Eye, because they have swapped around. They haven't really made up their mind, I think, who this Eevee player is going to be for G2. And I'm looking at Loki. I'm saying if whoever that Eevee player isn't up to snuff, Loki is going to smoke you in the back line.
Well, guys, just again, a reminder as we get to close this death segment out for this game, switch over to part 2. It's a link in your chat and Facebook, so unexpand your windows, go to the chat box and click that link. That will help to join you over to the next part, which will be starting in 10 minutes at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Very shortly, we'll be getting right back into the set. Fellas, closing thoughts on the set thus far as we look to Game 3.
Renegades has looked good, but they have not looked good enough.
Just get a map. You got it. They have to get a map here if they want to go to LAN.
Yeah.
Well, there's really a do or die moment here. Game 3 is going to tell it all. You do not want to miss it. Part 2, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is when we'll have that for you guys. We're going to go on a quick break. And, of course, we will be right back in just a moment. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here for part 2, or the continuation of the NAPPL today. I've got I Hold Shift and Pretty Hair with me, Rain Day, and we are about to set into Game 3 of our last set of the day. Renegades, G2 Esports, everything's on the line. Renegades have to win.
Yeah, they have to win. So the tiebreaker situation essentially comes down to map differentials. So that's kind of why we keep stressing the fact that they have to win one map, because they have to close that gap between what is that one that right now is existing between them and Team Envy. So, I mean, this is going to be tough, I think. You know, Renegades, they've looked good, like we mentioned, but can they find that little bit of gusto to get them over the edge, which has been this G2 PowerPoint?
This has been, I mean, this will be the most important game of Season 2, I think, of the PPL so far. And right now, those bans on the supports, Renegades have to be expecting it again, and they have to be developing some type of strategy around it.
And that's the thing, you know, are you going to be able to take enough away? I mean, I think G2 have said it doesn't matter if you get Ruckus and Makoa, we are still going to ban the Pip and the Grover, or the Genos and the Grover, however we want to do it, take the Pip. And I think that is often, you know, thrown a mind game into the side of Renegades to say, what will you do to hurt us just as much as we may be hurting you or throwing you off? Now G2 take a step in a different direction. They ban the Strix.
Yeah. I mean, this looked great for Loki out of the gate, and we're seeing Renegades make some adjustments as well. So we're seeing the moves and the counter moves from both teams in the same game. So this is going to give us a very interesting draft overall. Both these teams have a different idea coming into this third game, and it will settle a lot.
So they're giving up the Makoa, I think, in order to have a Nara Genos type situation, or a Fernando Genos. And I'd be surprised if G2 bit into that, and I don't think they are. They're going to take the Kinessa here, because the question is, you want Makoa, or do you want the only sniper available?
I think that's a really good talking point in general when you look at how this draft is going to pan out, because now for RNG, they have to make a decision as far as what do we
Makoa
go.
Nara,
yeah, exactly.
Do they leave the Genos?
There's a lot of options. So it will be Makoa Genos, which again, it puts G2 in a fine spot, because now they have the one card that RNG cannot, which is the long-distance sniper play. That's really, really key, I think, when you look at the strategy for G2.
Yeah, you get Fernando and Nara here, Nick, if you want it. I think they do. I don't know if they have to rush a healer at this point, although Moldamba is something that could pair well, but I think that they've locked down the front line to have an advantage here.
They definitely have, and there is still Zen Torvald available for the Renegades if they want to go that route on the front line. They could go Barrack potentially here. And personally not in love with Barrack at all, but on Frog Isle specifically, I think it's just too wide open for him to get set up ever to feel comfortable.
And you can shoot over his shield so many different spots. That barricade does not really do enough. But Terminus coming out, so again, just I like Terminus a lot when it comes down to the battle in the trenches, because more often than not, he's going to win those. And that power siphon is going to block a lot of those line of sights from Kinessa's scope, too.
I wonder if we're going to see something funky here. I thought an Eevee might come out. I was almost thinking, Will they pull the Drogos out here? Because there is not a lot of pressure in the air except for the Shaolin. And is that enough to ward it away? They'll take the Grover. It looks like it'll most likely follow the Efflorescence style as the main healer. And Renegades have a chance to last pick against this.
To last picks in. What a wild
I was
ride.
about to say.
That
Need it.
combo has
Not
had.
pick it at all.
Or that.
Well,
Shows how much
go
we
back to
know.
this, Nick, though. I mean, the game you were casting, this actually worked well for them when they were fighting earlier on, and Loki did perform on this Victor. Do you think that was the right pick? They did give up the Zen.
I think the difference here, though, is the Terminus versus the Ruckus, right? Ruckus
Yeah.
going to be working so much better with Genos, and this composition doesn't have the bite that it did earlier.
Interesting stuff. Alan, are you feeling confident?
More for G2 than I am for RNG, unfortunately, I think, with this draft.
This is the game Renegades need to win. We're a little unsure if that's going to happen based on the draft, but let's send it to the casters for Game 3 to see if they can do it in-game.
Thanks, fellas. Well, Renegades need this win for more than just the fact to keep themselves in the set.
It's do or die at this point. And, I mean, maybe not die. It's not that drastic, but definitely not a loss you want to take, especially when you are this close to potentially taking it, especially with the way G2 is playing. You might be able to kind of bank on it, but then, of course, your fate does fall into Envy's hands.
Well, it's so crazy because I feel like Envy, with their season, they're so high here, and they've still been doing well. And then Renegades, they're a bit shaky, and then they've been rising. They kind of have met in this weird middle spot, which is kind of just the most important time because land stuff is on the line. So on the one hand, it would be really weird to see Envy doing so dominantly in the beginning and then end up not being at either land. And then on the other hand, with Renegades, it would be interesting to see, oh, wow, we had these two. Yeah, very impressive to have that climb.
And I'm kind of curious about it as well because I mean, obviously they know what's on the line right now. And they've still opted back into this Victor for Loki. And this is something, I made this comparison earlier while we were actually just talking about it. I didn't say it because I felt like it was a little outlandish to say. But Victor, to me, right now, is kind of filling the same role that you want the Cassie to. He's going to have consistent damage for the most part. He has a little bit of good range to make sure that he can maybe contest the Kinessa, maybe help deal with even Cutie in this point, and can have those moments where he just gets doubles, triples, sets himself up to have those highlight plays.
Some interesting stuff in this Loki loadout as well. A little extra ammo, some extra health. And a little CD, but G2 first onto the objective, 15% climbing for them. Renegades are waiting for their opening, not getting too aggressive too early where they just lose any momentum.
The problem is it feels kind of like they're still protecting the backline. Evil Eye going to be able to get back there either way, though not going through the flank, just straight towards them, but unfortunately it doesn't go his way. That's first blood.
Loki's comfortable on this Victor and picks it up onto Evil Eye. Poison follows up onto Dosups as well, so that 66% by G2 Esports. Gonna get a little stop onto it in the meantime.
Being able to slowly come in, take over. Viral probably going to be running the Luminary, which is very important to see it where that ends up going. Loki falling immediately after, though. A nice shot from Job Bodies is going to make that big difference as to his damage and, of course, whichever legendary talent that he really wants to run as of right now.
Nice hits. This actually is going to keep the members of Renegades a bit far from this destination.
You can see right there, Beam Me Up, actually, I think being the big one right here. Not going for reposition, not having that instant teleport, but actually going to be maybe looking more for consistency in his shots, and you can see it really making a difference.
That's going to be your capture, and it wasn't even that bloody of a fight or anything, a few good picks, but it was that pressure added when you have a sniper that can just hit you as soon as you show up. And we saw Poison getting hit a few times, forced to back out of the equation, and now these axes from Cutie coming from afar as well.
I really do like Poison being able to kind of flip back over to the Shaolin, but not quite having the exact same stellar performance I had before. That could have been a great knockback, but either way, is just trying to eat through the shield. You can see the healing whirlwind coming through, though. G2 going to be able to push the gas pedal.
And that's how on Wardoom with this HP bar, it was doing that flickering for a bit and then just shot all the way to the top, where it didn't matter that he was locked down in any capacity. With 1 minute and 44 seconds to go, G2 Esports being very aggressive. Wardoom pops the Immortal currently, and Doseps is onto the high ground. Ancient Rage activated as well on the opposite end.
Keeps Dosubs alive and moving forward. ClickU in this awkward position where he doesn't want to fight through time and space coming through. Gonna eat that to the face, but Dosubs doesn't really care. He's already full health again.
On ClickU, despite being with the rest of his team, is getting chunked down real low. Some shots from afar. Loki picks one up. Evil Eye eventually collapses that onto Loki. We're a bit over the minute mark, and 3 have fallen for G2 Esports.
Being able to get a little bit of breathing room finally pushes it back, but that payload's right there on their doorsteps. And it's one of those awkward moments that you kill them, yeah, but there's a minute left for them to get back. You have to hold like you've never held before if you want to be able to keep this tied up.
Yeah, you see the members of G2 Esports, they're nowhere near the objective currently. There's still a lot of time for them to make it there, but now Dosub's actually all the way on the mountain, made it so far. Now they finally entered this territory once again.
Looking to try and come around the corner. I like the way Poison's positioned it. Evil Eye going down's really good right there. 2 kills total for Renegades to be able to try to alleviate some of the pressure. And with Cuskcutie going down, I don't know if they have enough to be able to push this in. 30 seconds, they're going to have to wait.
Like you got that double kill, misses on the hook, but still landing the shots on Dosubs. A wall attempted to blockade.
What a stagger.
But Poison still ends up getting that kill. Yep, staggered out. That is a very important note with that.
Just being able to get that kill, you can see no Inara. 16 seconds left. They could come in, touch down if they want to get aggressive, but it kind of feels like G2 are taking a slow approach to this. Might touch down literally just in time for overtime if they can come through, but with the way Renegades are holding this, they're making sure to get a lot of poke before that payload gets touched.
Yeah, so the question is it going to be a big team fight? Hero actually about 25% on his life pool. Dosub's really aggressive right below Poison. There's an Ice Storm activated. Poison picks up a kill onto Cuskcutie, and this is 2 for 2. Loki picking up one as well, but the reanimate brings Hero back to life. Another planted, but blasted away.
Trying to find the kills. Evil Eye just dancing around the payload, trying to keep it in overtime for someone to come in, try to find some kills, but Hero, I mean, it's great the reanimate coming through. I think saves that for them overall in terms of his presence. But unfortunately, now they don't have reanimate.
Yeah, and they did get value off of it there, so at least if you're going to use that resource.
Bye-bye. Not quite.
That's just always pretty funny. But with the way things go there, it's always funny when you see that there's a couple kills on both sides. But when you look up, only one is grayed out on the side of Renegades, for instance, and you think, okay, this is the moment. Is Hero going to use the reanimate, and will it get value? And hey, at least for them it did.
And as of right now, Drop Bodies, he's kind of the silent killer. With the way things are going, you see a lot of his shots coming at people. You see people dropping down around Renegades, but we haven't really been watching him, so seeing him get the kills. And so it's really funny to see these shots fly through. So far, his accuracy is on point, putting the pressure where it needs to go.
There are a couple situations where it looked like Poison was going to die, but he's actually still deathless in this game, 6-0 and 5, which is pretty great on his part, how consistent he has been throughout all of their games today. Loki picks one up onto Evil Eye. So once again, G2 Esports had stepped to the objective early. This time it was only 24% that they got. But Renegades stepping it up.
And this is the big difference right now. They're getting aggressive. They're not playing passive. They're getting in their face. Dosubs barely being kept alive. Cauterize being able to showcase a little bit, but now he's back almost full health. ClickU, Ancient Rage coming through, trying to swing back.
That was exactly what they need to keep Dosubs alive, but ClickU, he wants to change that aspect, tries to go for the hook, but it doesn't connect, and Dosubs actually swirls around, knowing that Ancient Rage was going to end up ending. But I Drop Bodies has got his new position online. Evil Eye takes down Viral. Is in the face of the rest of the team.
Steady aim definitely paying its weight in gold in terms of damage right now from Drop Bodies. His presence is insane. Ice Storm on the point, going to be able to get that. Drop Bodies cleans it up. 99% for Renegades, but it's stalled.
So close, but so far. And now G2 Esports, you've got Cuskcutie standing on the objective. I Drop Bodies with this great line of sight, so anybody that pops out will get caught, and that was an attempted through time and space.
Almost found a couple of hits, but almost isn't quite good enough overall in the game that you are playing right now. Renegades have to be on point for it. 87 to 99. Hero, ClickU, both going to be moving in, making this their new home. They cannot leave if you're G2.
Renegades do have that double front line, so that's a lot of pressure they can add, but unfortunately, they lose their Victor, they lose their Terminus, they lose their Makoa, they lose their Genos, and Evil Eye, oh, with the double kill, that's a team wipe right there.
In comes Evil Eye. Oh, we need to get the point. Oh, well, you guys didn't mention that part. Just go ahead and pick up some kills. Keep on moving forward. Happy as can be with the pressure he has applied so far right here. 2-1. Although G2 weren't as successful as they could have been. It's definitely been going back and forth in terms of defense, but Renegades need more than a defense. They've come close, but they haven't quite been able to get it.
It ain't over till it's over. They're really close before. That was nice. Everything gets set up for Poison in a lot of cases. He works hard for what he gets, but it's just really funny when he's there and notices exactly where the damage is happening, responds to the team, says, okay, I'll take that hit. But Renegades, they were able to come really close on that capture. They got the last defense. If they can do that again here, they're still in this nice and heavy.
Being able to find some shots, but even though it's a little bit slower pace overall for G2 this time around, you can see a minute and 40 seconds on the clock. There's a lot of time for a Frog Isle push, and this is normally a little bit more snowbally overall, but you can see right here what happens when two teams do clash together. A nice seismic crash. You want to be able to clash down and find some stuns, and that's going to give Evil Eye the go.
There's an Ice Storm traveling to the wayside, but Evil Eye, he's looking for more targets, takes out Click You. Hero ended up picking that up onto Doseps, though. Good use of the terrain to keep yourself safe in some regards, and slams on down, but knew he was going down into the grave as well. iDraw Body's picking that one up and activates the reanimate.
Tries to catch them off guard. Unfortunately, not going to be enough. In an awkward position to try and find that damage, and immediately Hero collapsed down, barely any health to his name, looking like he's about to fall again.
Drop bodies. He's gotten aggressive once more, and actually nice as Poison finally does end up falling to Doseps. Click You picks one up though too. It's a 1-for-1 trade. And here's the Ancient Rage as well. Right now, meeting some shields, but he's looking for bodies and actually has to redirect his attention.
Has to go back. The payload's important. Loki goes down right there. Doseps is just dancing around, waiting for that pressure to come in favor of them. Drop bodies on the side. Shots are solid. So far, so good. A nice headshot right there, and that one is going to be an Eagle Eye. He is aiming for those heads, and he hit 2,300.
Oh, man. iDraw Bodies bringing it through and through, and the rest of the team, too. Another team wipe, and that's going to be 3-1 for G2 Esports.
This is a very great moment. This is something that we kind of talked with Vox about, the way things are going. You can see his damage, not pulling too far ahead in comparison, but the kills, 8, 3, and 8, and what you just saw happen twice there, very dependent on headshots, but when you run that Eagle Eye, you get 50% extra. So instead of hitting for 1,800 when you find that headshot, you're hitting 2,400. That one shot's a ton of champions. And if you can find it, if you are confident enough, it can make a huge difference in your play.
Extra bang for your buck. And you saw viral when you're just floating down like that on Genos. Yeah, I don't feel like this is going to end well, guys. I have some awkward feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I don't think it was dinner. Well, now going into this, what could potentially be the last point.
Aiming very carefully through time and space. Going to be able to get him off of his post, but not able to find the kill just yet. Nothing erupting so far.
And Poison, he's rotated over to the far side near the hazard zone. Attempting to post up. Hero once again, chunked down pretty low. Has to wait for his healing to take effect before he can hop back into it. G2 Esports, 48% onto the objective, where even if they get pushed off for a bit of time, it should at least compensate for the fact that there's a comeback mechanic potential for Renegades.
Nice shots coming through. Evil Eye going to get rid of Poison right there. Ice Storm on the point. Hero goes down right after.
No, that's a double kill. And actually continuing, looking for some more targets. Click You, he's in the middle of the action. Shell spins out of it, but just into more lines from G2 Esports. Cutie picking that one up. This overtime sitting on down because it's already 99% for G2 Esports. Wow, and that's going to be their victory. So Renegades, lots of pressure going into this game. They really needed to take off a map to be able to keep themselves in the running for lands.
And I want to say, when it came down to it, a lot of that game, yeah, that point fight, Evil Eye, the way he played it was very solid, but I want to say it goes back to that push, being able to go up 3-1. It was drop bodies, finding those headshots, finding the damage he did, the pressure that he did was a little bit different. They didn't have anything to deal with him, and even when they tried to take him out of the equation, he was just hitting too hard. No one could touch him.
Yeah, that was just a lot of cohesion happening on the side of G2, and going back to the draft that happened originally, where even the devs there saying they seem to favor that side a little bit, and with their picks having a bit of that strength, just seem to be able to overcome the targets.
And it's just in this weird position where even when we've seen Renegades so far this set draft something that, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be really solid. Most of the time you're going to be able to pull something away. It came down to G2 not only having things that they are comfortable with, things they can flex on, but things that are just for them mechanically better, being able to showcase that they are the top team for a reason.
All right, well, that's going to be the end of this set. So let's go ahead and send it over to the desk to give us a nice summary.
Thanks, Gabby and Gore. Great job on the cast. And, of course, that set. Great job to G2 Esports. They clean sweep the Renegades. There really is no contest there. There hasn't been all season. But, again, with this 3 dynamic and who's going to come in first, who's going to come in second, we're really hyping up this matchup. But it's kind of just the same way this has gone.
It's just another day at the office for G2.
Yeah.
Flat out. It's 9 to 5. Business hours are open, and
Yep.
everyone's getting schooled a little bit here. I mean, it's just one of those things that when you continue to look, we get kind of, we get the blinders on. Like, it's NA, so we're focusing just on NA. But when you start to look past the realm of that, G2 really, to be honest, was the only actual representative of North America at World Championships.
Yeah.
And they're still playing at a high level, international level.
I think they look better than they did at Worlds.
Same.
They've looked scarier than they ever have. They definitely have potential to be an international champion once again, looking like they did at DreamHack. DreamHack, they didn't even come in really looking as scary as I feel
No.
like. The EU teams definitely had a weird tournament that go around.
They
but
did.
They looked, and I don't think they've ever looked better.
I think, and you got to talk about Evil Eye. We didn't know if he was going to show up, gets married yesterday, has an incredible set, grabs MVP today. And, I mean, that's what you would expect. You get married, you're feeling on the top of your life, you just got a new bride, and you're ready to go out to work, and now you can go back home to her saying, hey, babe, I got MVP today. Here's what I did.
How about a little bit of a honeymoon in Vegas?
Yeah.
There you go. And I mean, with that game, they cement,
All paid for.
They cement first seed in the
I like that.
WPL as well. Renegades are now too far away from Envious to even make any of the lands, so it will be Envious and G2 representing North America at the Masters LAN, and Envious have also earned themselves that spot and the Superstars event in Las Vegas.
You got to say Envious are pretty happy right now.
You have to
'Cause,
think so.
They don't know.
Nice.
They didn't know they're going Vegas till that
So does
moment.
this change that next set now that they don't have any pressure on them? Do they look even better without pressure, you think?
I mean, I hope so, because back in week 3,
Yeah.
that 5-game set was the pinnacle of North American
Yeah.
Paladins, flat out. There's
Yeah.
no other North American set that I could even come close to citing as being as exciting as that one was. So now that you don't have to worry so much, you're going to go, let's just throw everything, caution into the wind and just go for it and see what happens.
I mean, I personally think that maybe Envy here, considering the fact that they haven't really been to LANs, this is a new team that's finally found success this season. Not having gone to LAN, this could still be very much a training ground. We know how they take this very seriously. We talk about the masseuses after, maybe even during the game to keep them warmed up. They're doing all the right stuff, and I feel like this will only incite them to say, guys, yeah, we go, but we want to win there. We want to perform there. We also need to prove that we can beat G2 because we came so close, and people still doubt that we could be the #1 seed.
Rock and Rubu have been part of that underdog story once before.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just another continuation of, different chapters, same book for them.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, man.
It's going to definitely be interesting. We still got one set for today, and it is the one we've just been talking about, G2 versus Envy. Let's take a look at the schedule, which is exactly on your screen right now. All those 3 games passed. It's been 3-0s across the board, albeit pretty long 3-0s.
Very.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I feel like we've gone best of 5 every set almost.
This could have easily been a day of all best of 5s.
Yeah, and it feels that way still. We've had competitive games, but they've just always been to the team that had the edge that way. Renegades, no miracle story this time around. G2 Envy rounding it up. Will it be the revenge, the vengeance achieved by Envy, taking back that illustrious win over G2, or will G2 firmly cement their place in first place as they take them down for the second time in a row? Find out right after this. We'll be back in a minute.